evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Andy Toliver-Smith. Most of you know who I am. Some of you, some of you do not, but I've been around for a little while, and I am a professor, associate professor, and now program director, y'all, at the Howard University. Hey, last time I spoke with you, I can't remember where I was working, but I have a background in cultural and linguistic diversity. I also have a background in hearing and deafness. That's kind of my thing. So let's see. I'm trying to think of what you may want to know.
Anything about yourself, what you said so far was just wonderful to hear. Congratulations on
Thank
being
you so much.
program director.
Thank you. Thank you so
Welcome.
much. It's a lot, but guess what? I'm okay. But it is a lot. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
being pulled in several different directions, and I have to let people know I do not work in the summer.
Okay.
Look, I gotta protect my peace at all costs. So that's what it is. So yeah. But okay, let me tell you just a little bit more because I'm just thinking about it. How did I get into speech pathology? Um, well, um, I initially went to college to be an attorney. I went to Howard University in 1988. So yeah, I'm dating myself. Don't be adding up my age, but I will tell you, I am 55, y'all. Just made double nickels last week, so I'm excited about that. And so I'm like, thank God I made it. And so but I went over to I hated it. I started taking classes and I hated it. Okay. And I'm like, poli sci pre-law, hated it. So then I'm like, what do I do best? Run my lips and party. So over to at Howard, speech pathology is housed under School of Communications. So I'm like, well, if I can run my lips, that means I can communicate. So I went over there to see what they had, and the idea that I could help somebody talk really appealed to me. So that's kind of what happened with me. And so that's how I got there. So, oh, thank you. Oh my God, my doc student is here. Thank you. And so I uh um I'll tell you all about my journey when we get started. Does that work?
Yes, yes, you can share.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now it's not that many people here tonight, and I get it because this is not a topic that everybody's into. Okay. Oh, and I want to show y'all my shirt too.
Oh, nice.
Look, I'm showing out at 55. I'm showing out. Okay. So let me share my screen. Um, just a second.
And happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm super, super excited about turning 55. I didn't think I would be. I thought that I was going to be, bummed out and all this stuff. And I was for a minute, but because for those of you who don't know, I lost my husband almost 3 years ago. And so it's been a roller coaster ride. But I'm here, y'all. I'm here. And that's
Right.
all I can say.
Yes.
Okay. So the title of my presentation it actually came from a book chapter that I had written, right? And it's called Navigating Academia. And why did I say it was the ultimate setup? Well, I should have known it was set up because it was too easy to get into, right? Everybody was like, yeah, yeah, you can do this, you can do this, it's going to be fine. But nobody prepared me for what came after graduation, right? So I get the PhD and, I'm thinking that the world was going to be my oyster. Mm, okay. So anyway, this is the excerpt from my book. And those of you who really know me, and I'll read it for you, but so you can hear it in my voice, okay? As I continued my journey towards tenure, I became increasingly aware of how microaggressions played a tremendous role in my day-to-day life at the university. I always addressed them when they occurred, but was challenged or dismissed. My presentations were often met with skepticism and resistance from not only my white colleagues, but also my BIPOC colleagues as well, because I was seen as radical and I was unwilling to assimilate. But I calmly informed them that they were probably upset when I walked my black ass into the classroom. So if you know me, that sounds just like me, right? So, oh, somebody lost sound. Can you all hear me now?
Yeah, most of us can hear. I think it's just one person.
Okay. Okay. Wait a second. Let me move this. All righty. So I wasn't ever afraid to speak up or speak out. Okay. That's not something I was ever afraid to do. But I didn't realize the wear and tear that it had on you, you know, mentally, physically, emotionally. I was not aware of how that works. But it does. Okay. Oh, somebody dropped off. All righty. These are my financial disclosures, financial and non-financial disclosures. Um, I work at Howard. You all know that. I'm a member of ASHA and I'm a member of MBASLA. Okay. These are the learning outcomes of this presentation or session. Just, you know, I just want you to think about these things. I want you to, um, if you're going into academia, I want you to think about the potential barriers that exist for Black women in academia and think about how to navigate them. If you're already in academia, I want you to think about how you can reclaim your power, how you can be better, and not to be discouraged because I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to connect the lived experiences of a Black woman, me, working in academia, to your own career path, and recognize some of the pitfalls of these experiences for your own students and faculty, and use knowledge to avoid attrition in your programs and your departments. Okay, because you're gonna have to pay attention. It was very well, I'll tell you about it, but it was difficult for me to spot. Okay. But when I found it, I was like, whoa, I didn't realize it. So a little bit more about myself. Like I said, I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 70, which is right on the heels of the civil rights movement. So my parents were, all pro-Black, I'm Black and I'm proud and all this stuff. So that's how I grew up. Um, I went to Howard, and again, I had the HBCU experience, which was beautiful. Um, how should I explain this? Socially, it was beautiful. Sometimes administratively, it was not. And that led to me being a college dropout. So, no, I did not go straight through college. I dropped out and I worked for 11 years as a professional meeting planner. Life happened, got married, I got a kid, all these things. And 9/11 happened. So when 9/11 happened, that sent me back to school, believe it or not. So I went back to school because I dropped out my sophomore year at Howard. So I went back to school in my 30s. I was 32. So, I really, really, really was not afraid to speak out then. I will tell you, mentorship is essential, and it also never stops. So I met my first mentor, who was a Black woman. She was a sister, and but she was very supportive throughout my entire career, and still has been very supportive. Okay, so she was my first one, and I do have a hope for my students and for others is that you all never have to experience the impact of implicit biases and racism in the workplace or the marginalization that comes with being supervised by individuals who neither acknowledge nor understand your culture. I've worked at two PWIs and I've made astounding discoveries about what underrepresented students in our field must endure to become professionals. While I had great mentors, they didn't prepare me for this. Okay. I was oblivious to their experiences because I didn't have the same experiences in my program. So when I went back to school, I went back to school in Arkansas. Okay. I'm originally from Arkansas. But when I went back to school in Arkansas, um, I was I was the golden child. I made straight A's in school. Okay. So I was the golden child. So, but what I did notice is that there were only two Black students per graduate class or per class. Okay. I didn't even think much about it at that time. And I was fortunate to have her, my friend, and she and I went through the program together. Okay. We had the same classes. We both went through the sign language studies program together. That was our minor. And she actually did not get into graduate school as a speech pathologist, but she became an itinerant teacher of the deaf. Okay, but she would have been a kick-ass clinician. I have to say that. But she had difficulty getting into graduate school. Okay, wait a minute. Did you? Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so sorry that you left. We need you. Okay, we really do. Seriously. Seriously, Dr. Dawn, we need you because the students need somebody. If they can't see you, they can't be you. But if you need to take a break, trust me, I get it because academia will kick your ass. Okay. And I'm just being honest. So, my undergraduate experience. It was a deliberate decision, like I said, to attend an HBCU. I had heard about Howard Law, and I was like, that's where I need to go. That's where I need to be. And I got there, and socially, I loved it. Now, if you ever worked at a HBU or attended a HBCU, then you already know that it's going to be some problems, right? I remember going to the financial aid office and I said, listen, I need, book money, because it was expensive to go to Howard. And one woman looked at me and she did her little lips and she was like, that sounds like a personal problem to me. So I was very disappointed in my experience. I was somewhat disappointed in the way we stratify ourselves. And we have to be very, very careful, not to stratify ourselves as Black people because we have, I saw on campus, I saw the Greek people, I saw I was with the band people, I saw all these different groups, right? And as opposed to us coming together and working for common good, right? So a lot of times that happens with us. And of course, the educated Black people, we look down on the uneducated Black people and there was a moment in time when we all were together in the 60s, 50s and 60s. And before then, we all were together doing the same damn thing, okay, in order to reach this common goal. And that just didn't happen. And it was typically, I call it the typical divide and conquer because, we thought we had won something. We were out discoing, twirling and pearling. The white women had come out. The Black people were out. The gay people were out. We were all discoing and they had a plan for us. Okay. And we didn't even realize that we were about to be stratified. So that's something that's super important, right? I do identify as Black with a capital B, right? So like I said, that denotes my culture, right? Not just my race. Um, so I told you I transferred to BWI and I got this newfound love for cultures, right? Because I'm sitting in class and in the white ladies class, as a matter of fact, and it was a language-based class, and so I'm sitting there and I realized, that's when the light came on. I'm like, oh my God, you know, most people that can't hear can't talk, or can't talk, can't hear. That's what I was thinking. So that's how I found the love of deaf culture. Deaf culture was my first love. And if you all may remember, I did a lecture for you all, a talk. I don't like to call these lectures because I love doing these guest appearances, I guess, for sisters. So anyway, deaf culture is my first love. But then when I went to graduate school, I realized, oh my God, I love all cultures. So I wanted to know more about all these different cultures, which is how I ended up with a PhD in cultural and linguistic diversity. Okay. So, but I always felt like, when I was there, I was like, gosh, these cultures, this, and that. And it was just such a fabulous thing for me. But believe it or not, it was a white female professor that encouraged me to obtain my PhD. I had never considered this. Okay. So, I should have known it was a damn setup because it was everything about my experience, just about, was a little too easy. So I was just like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? So, but in the middle of my undergraduate years, one of my professors, because back then, you remember, we could practice without a master's. And so she said to me, my first black mentor, she said, Andy, you're going to have to go get your master's because in a couple of years, you're going to have to get your master's. So that was my first experience or first thought of moving the goalpost, moving the finish line. And I don't know if you remember Hidden Figures, but this came to mind when she said that because I'm saying to myself, they always moving the damn goalposts, okay? And you're going to find that in your career.
Moon them back with this. Just not the bathroom. Well, at least they not blind to what you do.
It's not gonna matter soon. This IBM's gonna put us all out of work.
What can we do about it?
Only one thing to do. Learn all we can, make ourselves valuable. Somewhere down the line, a human beings are gonna have to push the buttons.
That's right.
Oh, mercy.
Well, she must be lost.
NASA doesn't commission females for the engineer training program.
That position is available to any qualified applicant.
Right, except you don't have the educational requirements.
I have a bachelor's degree in mathematics and physical science. It's the same as most engineers around here.
Well, we now require advanced extension courses through the University of Virginia. It's in the employee handbook, an addendum, in case you haven't read it.
Every time we have a chance to get ahead, they move the finish line.
I just follow the rules around here, and I expect everyone who works for me to follow them as well. There are no special circumstances for anyone. Y'all should be thankful you have jobs at all.
Who's felt like
Moon 'em
that?
back with
Wait a minute.
this. Just
Who's felt like that before? I can't hear you.
I did.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
still,
yeah,
still
all of it.
changing something.
But look, I see look, yeah, everybody's raising their hand. Yeah, yeah. That's exactly how I felt. And I was like, damn, because it was a struggle to get the degree in the first place, right? So now I got to go get the damn master's. Okay. So that led me on this search. So spring break 2005, okay? And this is not that long ago, okay? Um, I got accepted to all of, my universities that I applied to. Okay. And at my first state school, because y'all know I'm in Maryland, right? So at the first state school, they knew who I was before I got there. Okay. I should have been flattered, but I wasn't. Okay. So I went there because I wanted to tell them I was interested in GA positions and all this stuff, right? So I get there and the little girl, and I'm saying little girl because I was 30, almost 35, I was 34. And she comes up to me, oh, you're Andy Toliver-Smith. Oh, your grades are like up to here. And I'm like, how the hell does she, you know? So then I started looking around and I didn't see me, right? So when I got into the interview, they asked about my marriage. Are you married? And where are you working and all this stuff. Nothing about the GA position that I had inquired about. Okay. I did not see myself there. And even though there were one or two little black girls, they were young. They were, you know, college age. Okay. So I didn't know if it was an age thing or a race thing, or perhaps both. Okay. But anyway, I finally met the black professor that they had there, and she informed me that I should become a speech coach, and I didn't need a MS in CSD. because I had told them, oh, I'm interested in accent dialect modification. And she goes, oh, you don't need a master's degree for that. You should be a speech coach. Okay. Sometimes it comes from your own, right? So at the next place, I went to it was a private PWI, and this unpleasant white man insulted me throughout my entire visit. Okay. The clinic director, when I met her, um, that's right, all skin folk and kinfolk, you're right. But when I met the clinic director and I was, telling her, oh, yeah, I'm interested in a GA position, blah, blah, blah. And so she says to me, oh, well, I mean, she just grilled me. What are your grades like? And I said, I have a 4.0 in the field and a 3.8 overall because I got a B in history. Look, I was being cheeky when I said it. And so she goes, well, what's your GRE? And back then we were taking the GRE and it was probably around 1200, something like that. And so she goes, oh, well, you fall right in line with what we're looking for. And I said, and to myself, I was just like, no, no, thank you. Because the man initially, he insulted me every chance he got. And he was, he's telling me that I wasn't a sophisticated student and I didn't know this and I didn't know that. And I'm just like, wow, And so they offered me a full scholarship, that university did, and I turned them right down. Okay. I did not want to have to fight to get my master's degree. Okay. Um, at the second state PWI, and I went and I met with the woman, and she said, oh, you should go and study with the DeVillers at this other university. And I'm just looking, and I was just like, but I applied here. I don't see her making a phone call to the damn DeVillers, okay, or to do anything to help me in any kind of way. So, whatever, I was gone. So well, that wasn't my last university, but the HBCU where I went, which was Howard, the department chair, and she was warm. She spent at least 2 hours with me, and she put me on the phone with a child, everything. So I knew that I was going back home. Okay. So it's important that we recognize um, this misogynoir because that's what was happening. Okay, are you all familiar with the term misogynoir?
No, can you explain it, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, HU, So misogynoir is a specific hatred or disdain for Black women specifically. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. This term was coined by Dr. Moya Bailey. Okay, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But I came to the realization after all of those campus visits that our field has a true dislike for Black women. Okay. So I don't know if you all remember this moment in time, but when I saw this clip, I wanted to bring this back to your attention because this is what happens to us in our field.
Life insurers put life into the things you live for because life insurers are the single largest investor in job creating, innovation driving, and economy building U.S. corporate bonds. See how we put life into America at acli.com.
It was, for me, a huge lesson in what misogynoir and sexism and racism look like even for a wealthy and powerful Black woman. I don't know if people watching on television, if you could sense how confused everyone was. I mean, people heard booing and all that, but really it was first confusion, like what's going on? And then I think the critical moment was when Serena said something along the lines of, you wouldn't treat a man like this. We in the crowd could then understand that she was being subjected to double standards. So I think Her having the presence of mind to call that out in the midst of all the confusion, and for her, certainly the emotions and the high pressure of the women's final, I think that was really critical for everyone to sort of kind of get it like, oh, wait, she's being treated in a way that a man would not be treated. But I think those of us who understand that these problems are systemic and that Serena and her sister Venus have been subject to it for their entire careers, understood pretty quickly because she did. Misogynoir is a term that was coined by Dr. Moyer Bailey. It's the word noir in French means black, right? And we can think of misogyny, right, as the oppression of women. Dr. Bailey wanted to describe racialized misogyny that black women experience. It's an added layer of complexity, right? So that white women, for example, experience misogyny and sexism, but they don't experience systemic racism. But black women experience both of these things in their everyday lives, and they're intertwined because we're always racialized as black, and we're always gendered. Black women, women of color, indigenous women, we not only experience racism and know a lot about how it works, but we experience how it intersects with other forms of oppression. And so I think that we can look around, and this is actually not just something that I say is important for people who aren't black women and women of color to understand. Even black women, we have to think about how are we not only learning from our own experiences, but listening to black women who study these issues, who work on these issues, and challenging ourselves to really be more inclusive in the perspectives that we involve in this conversation.
So, of course, I found Dr. Moya Bailey, who talks about this, and she's not happy with the idea that there is such a thing, that she had to even come up with this term. Okay. She's not thrilled about that at all. Right. So she's like, well, you'll see what she says, but her thing is to eradicate it, and it should be eradicated, but it's prevalent in academia. Okay. But here we go.
Misogynoir, the hatred of, aversion to, or prejudice against black women. In 2008, while I was writing my dissertation, I coined the term misogynoir, and it was a term that I was really trying to find because I wanted to talk about something I was seeing in these dated medical school yearbooks in terms of how black women were represented. And unfortunately, that representation matched things that I was seeing in a lot of the different media innovations of the last several centuries. And so what was it about this representation of black women that had remained unchanged for nearly 100 years? I think it's really important to name the way that black women are mistreated in society, because when you are able to describe exactly what people are experiencing, it makes it that much easier to address it. And giving the experience of misogynoir a name really gives us a place to build from. And I've seen so many people find the language helpful in their own activism. The idea of something that I created being added to the dictionary is still something I can't fully put my mind around, especially since it's not a particularly pleasant word. I'm really actually looking forward to the day when the word gets retired.
That's amazing. See, she's super brilliant. She hears the voices. I don't hear the voices. You know what I'm saying? We have this joke, me and my PhD mentor, who I'll tell you all about, but she is here tonight, y'all. So my PhD mentor, I used to tell her all the time, I'm like, listen, I don't hear the voices. You hear the voices. I'm not brilliant like that, but you hear the voices. I'm just doing, whatever I can. So, okay.
Misogynoir.
Second. So, okay. So I went to Howard. This is my grad school. I felt accepted. I felt valued. Okay. And, I felt I saw other women like me. I met older sisters. I met younger sisters. I loved my professors. All of our professors, some of us are a little cuckoo. And, I mean, that's just part of the thing, right? I'm one of those too. I'm a little bit loose. And so, but at the same time, I knew that they were all there to foster our success, right? Because they want us, all your professors, and a lot of people never even see a Black professor until they get to college, right? So, or a Black teacher. Okay. But I was fortunate because of course I went to Howard and I had some wild teachers. I have to tell y'all about that one day, but I had some wild professors. Okay. We had to take a class at Howard called the Black Diaspora. I think they changed the name a couple of times, the African diaspora, the Black diaspora. And Dr. Miller came in there with fire in her eyes and I don't know, ice in her soul. I don't know, but she she had it out for the white people. I'm like, dang. So you know, I had some wild teachers. I had a good time, but I learned a lot from her, though, right? But I met and I studied the Trailblazers and studied with the Trailblazers in the speech pathology field, communication sciences and disorders. I was thrilled to walk amongst them. Thrilled now to even say that on those shoulders I stand. Right. So it was good. It was a good place for me to be. They introduced Dr. Kay Payne was my mentor at that time. And she introduced us to Mbasla. We didn't have a choice, right? Um, and I even won the 2008 Student Research Award. Okay. So that was something that was really cool because I wouldn't have ever imagined that. I'm just trying to go to school because I'm trying to get back to my life because I've taken these years out of my life to go to school. Now I got to do an additional 2, right? So I'm just trying to get back to life because 9/11 really impacted my life. The thing that happened was I was a professional meeting planner, and that probably is my favorite job in the world, right? I was working at the Maryland Science Center downtown Baltimore. It was a fabulous job, and I made good money because I got commission and all this stuff, right? Well, the thing about it is, after 9/11, all that money dried up because it was no longer appropriate to have, excuse me, to have those special events. Okay. So I'm like, let me go finish this speech path thing. So, that's kind of what happened. Now, my clinical experience, okay, and we will do me and my partner, we will do another presentation on sometimes it comes from your own, sometimes it does come from your own, and we have to be careful with this. And I know a lot of times we want, we want to be a little harder on our students because we want to kind of prepare them for what's going to happen out there. That's not the way to prepare them. Okay. Um, to do some little mild hazing. I'd never do that with my students. And I remember saying to myself, I'm not going to do that with my students because I want to make sure that they're successful. Okay. I had a woman tell me, and this is after I had graduated. She said to me, she says, oh, she asked where I went to school. And I said, oh, I went to Howard. And she goes, and I was working at this little bad school. It was somewhere in DC. And I was doing some contract work at this little bad school. And when I say little bad school, I mean that the children, it was alternative school. Y'all know what that means. And so, and she was like, I should give my time back. I said, yeah, you should. I said, they would really love it. And she goes, and the first thing I would have them do, the students do, is have them do therapy in the hallway. Y'all know I went off on that woman. I said, now what would you do that for? And I know she was surprised at the switch, but I don't believe in hazing my students, okay? I don't believe in putting them through unnecessary drama. And I said, why would you do that? I said, because some of them are young, they're scared. This is their first time having any sort of interaction like that. And I said, and by doing so, you are having them violate HIPAA and FERPA. So she said to me, because this sister, and she said to me, she goes, well, if they tell me that, then they would have won. I'm like, won what? The right to have therapy in the therapy room? Come on, girl. You got to do better than that, right? So a lot of my clinical experiences was baptism by fire, was a little bit of haze in there. And I'm just like, no, I don't like this. So I promised myself I would never be that person to put my students through things like that. Now, let me tell you about this. I took a class at one of those PWIs that I went to visit, right? Because I was trying to get out, and I finished all my classes in December, and Howard only has one graduation, but I finished all my classes because it was an issue with money, of course. So I'm trying to get all my classes, completed before my money ran out, right? So in the middle, not in the middle, but towards the end of the semester, my back went out. Had to have back surgery. Okay. So one of these professors at the PWI, she just was not happy with my black ass being there. Okay. I'm sorry, my old black ass being there. And so she recommended to my department chair that I take the class all the way over again. I'm like, I don't think so, honey. Right. And she didn't think so either. She's like, I'm not going to allow her to gatekeep you. Well, when I went back, because I was out, when I went back to take my final, she, we had to pick numbers. And I guess the numbers was the number of the essay that you would write. So when you pick the number, she would give you an essay that you write for the test, right? Well, this heifer wrote the numbers on little pieces of paper, like, like the little stickies. She wrote the numbers on something like this and folded it up. Okay. Then she shook them in her hand and she threw them on the floor. And I had to pick numbers from that. So I stood there, you know, and I'm looking at her, she's looking at me. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, itch bay. I'm not picking that up. I ain't your damn dog. But anyway, she said, well, you're trying to see the numbers through the paper. And I said, honey, I still have staples in my back. I just had back surgery. And so she goes, oh, well, that was mean of me. Yeah, it was mean for you to do that. I could have just picked the number out the sky and you could have given me the lecture, I mean the essay question to write. So things like that prompted me to write this book chapter. It was experiences like that because that's kind of where it started. Okay. So my PhD experience, I got a call from that undergraduate mentor, right? And she goes, Andy, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. I'm working I'm working at a school now because I can't have a career that's contingent upon upon world events, right? So I'm working at a high school. And she's, what are you doing? Nothing. You want to come back to school? No, ma'am. And she's like, but you can do it. And I was like, yeah, okay. What she didn't know is that I didn't think my marriage could survive that experience. Okay. That's a whole nother story because, sometimes our men get a little bit, you know, upset or feel threatened or something like that. And you'll find that sometimes with brothers. And my husband was no exception when I got my master's degree, because the first thing he said is, oh, you're going to turn into one of them. No, fool. I got to get this so I can keep my job. I got to get the master's degree so I keep my job. And so he was like, well, you're going to change. No, I won't. And I told him, I said, you can get this same cussing after I graduate as you can get today, however you want it, right? So he said to me, he told me he didn't support it, but he did eventually because I left that butt. Sometimes you have to make a believer out of him. Honey, I left that butt and moved to Baltimore. And I stayed in Baltimore for a year when I was working and in grad school. And he came to me and he was like, honey, I got you a new laptop. Yeah, I bet you do. So went back home, of course. And but the PhD, I was scared because I was like, okay, I just really got home and settled, right? So I asked him, I said, Eddie, I said, let me, talk to you about something. So when I brought it up, I thought he was going to clown, But y'all, he did not. Thank God he did not. He was like, girl, you better go get that. He was like, my mentor had told me, she was like, they got a grant and we'll pay for your tuition for 3 years. I'm like, oh. So he was like, girl, you better go get that. Ain't nobody paying for no PhD. So I was shocked and I was just like, what, you got some little PYT waiting in the wings? And so he was like, no, girl, just, do it. Just be happy. I want you to be happy. So he was very, very supportive throughout my whole um, going back to school experience, my career experience, all of those things. He was very, very supportive. Okay. So when I get there, right, I went and interviewed and everything, and I get there because I didn't have a real reason for going back to school other than I was burned out on therapy because y'all know that's redundant as hell. And sometimes you just really get burned out, right? So I met my PhD mentor, who is a white trans woman, and she was amazing. Okay. She could have made it so much more difficult than it had to be. Okay, but it was an amazing experience. Okay, we laughed, we talked, we cut up. We both a little bit flaky. Also all sorts of things. And I'm more than a little bit flaky. So is she. But anyway, and so, but Dr. Greta Robinson is here tonight, which is amazing. And thank you so much for coming. And so of course the PhD, obtaining the PhD is isolating at times. And it's going to be that way. That's the nature of the doctoral program. But it was so smooth. It could have been worse because remember I told you about the white woman that initially recommended that I got my PhD. She was unhelpful as hell. And I got my first C in her class. Okay. But the whole thing is, I'm like, there were only two of us, two sisters in this program at the time in the PhD program. It's relatively new. So I graduated in 2014 with someone who's still in my sister circle. Because I went to her and I said, look here, because she had been in the program longer than me. I said, look here. I said, we're going to work together. And I said, we're going to get out of here by hook or crook. She said, amen. So there we were. And we were the first Black students to graduate from that PhD program. So I'm very happy about that. And so we got on out of there. All righty. So let me tell you about work. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Miss Nicole. So I didn't really start feeling the whole racism thing, not really in the field until I went to work as a professor. Now, I foolishly thought, since I was heavily recruited, that I would be appreciated for the knowledge and the skills that I brought to the department. Of course, it was only for optics, because every chance they got to take a damn picture of me, they were. They was over there taking pictures. So I was an assistant professor at a PWI in the Midwest. What did I face? Daily microaggressions. Okay, I don't have to tell you all what this is. Daily microaggressions. It was very heavy emotional lifting because the challenging students, the ones that you have to drag across the stage, I got them. They were always in my office. Okay. This is common for BIPOC professors because we're often seen as the caregivers for students of color or anybody else, right? So, these students were in my office all the time, which meant that I was taking care of them and not necessarily my business. So that meant that I'm dealing with them and their issues, right? And then I'm having to take care of my business. That means I'm working late. So a lot of times I didn't get off to, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I wasn't necessarily in class either. Okay. Because I like to do my work at work and not at home because at home I'm supposed to be chilling, right? But yeah, that's what happened to me. So I was doing a lot of heavy emotional lifting. Okay. And this is like I said, it's pretty common for BIPOC professors. Okay. Also, since my specialty area is cultural and linguistic diversity, I taught at least two of these type courses per semester. Okay. And my course evaluations were almost always poor. Okay. And that impacts my tenure, right? So I'm in the Midwest with all these little white children who start freaking out the moment they see my black ass walk in the classroom. Okay. So some of them, once they get to know me, then they're okay. But on upon sight, a lot of them, had some issues with me. Okay. So yes, it is work. And it's a thing too. Um, Dawn, it's a thing, heavy emotional lifting. Because sometimes I left work and I felt like I had, just left everything that I had right there at the job or gave it all to those students. So some more workplace experiences. I was excluded a lot from outside activities with my peers. I didn't care if they were white or not, white or Jewish. We had a Jewish girl on faculty. And I'm just like, come on, just, if they said, come on, Andy, just come with us. But no, they didn't do that, right? And then I was the only one in the department. And I didn't receive much guidance or support, more baptism by fire. Okay. I experienced performative allyship. Are you all familiar with performative allyship? Do you all know?
No.
Okay. That's when someone pretends that they are supportive of you and of your, because of the difference. Oh yeah, 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 I support you in your face, but behind your back, no. Okay, there's no support. When you really need them, there's no support. Okay, but they're right there parading around talking about, oh yeah, I don't see color. You need to see all of this, honey. Okay, see this color, enjoy it, taste it in your mouth. So, uh, Black women, again, are often the only ones in any given academic setting and face microaggressions and or feelings of isolation on a daily basis. I honestly felt that way. I've never felt that way before, okay? Because even when I was, in Little Rock in the South, even when I was in Little Rock and, not that DC is not in the South, but I'm just saying when I was there, and not around that many Black people, I never felt that way because my professors and most of my colleagues, we were okay, where I felt like I could talk to them and if I wanted to study with them or whatever, I could do so. But I didn't feel that I had anybody in St. Louis. Um, so the other Black women on campus, right? One of my favorite people, the she was the associate VP of something, right? High position. And she was wonderful. She was a white woman and she tried to connect me with other Black women on campus, right? And so I attempted to connect with these women, and I was seen as radical with them. Okay, because I'm unwilling to assimilate. I'm not that chick. And I don't code switch, and I stopped that years ago. That shit is exhausting. So I'm not going to change who I am to make somebody else comfortable. I'm just not going to do it. So yeah, I was snubbed and dismissed a lot that way as well because I'm nappy headed and all of these different things, and I wasn't going to change just to make my white colleagues comfortable. Okay, so a lot of times for Black women and born here in the U.S., it's difficult to escape the messaging. It's an underlying message that regarding Black people in society, and this messaging has been the source of internalized oppression. Okay, so there's a lot of internalized oppression going on with the other BIPOC professors, right? So, I they may treat you poorly, and a lot of times if you work with other sisters, especially some of the older ones, maybe they want to be the only, and they're threatened by you or whatever, and they may treat you poorly because of that. That's in the sometimes it comes from your own talk as well. I think we're gonna do that in December. Is that right, Miss Terry?
Yes,
Okay, we're gonna do that in December.
yes, yes, definitely.
Okay. So I want to show you a little bit about the performative allyship and what it is. Okay, I found this cool video about that.
What is performative allyship? Imagine you are at a gathering where everyone is discussing ways to support social justice movements. You hear someone passionately talking about their commitment to equality, yet their actions seem to contradict their words. This scenario raises an important question. What does it mean to be an ally, and how can we differentiate between genuine support and performative allyship? Performative allyship refers to actions that are more about gaining social approval or visibility, rather than making a meaningful impact. It often involves individuals or organizations making statements or gestures that appear supportive but lack substance or follow-through. This can include posting on social media during a crisis, using hashtags for awareness, or participating in events without engaging in the ongoing work that supports the cause. A key aspect of performative allyship is that it tends to focus on the ally's image rather than the needs of the marginalized communities they claim to support. For instance, someone might wear a pin or a shirt with a social justice message, but if they do not actively participate in conversations or initiatives that address the underlying issues, their support may be superficial. In contrast, genuine allyship involves taking consistent, informed actions that contribute to the well-being of marginalized groups. This can include educating oneself about the issues, listening to the experiences of those affected, and using one's privilege to advocate for change. True allies recognize their role in the movement and commit to long-term support rather than fleeting gestures. Understanding performative allyship is essential for anyone who wants to be a true ally. It encourages individuals to reflect on their motivations and the impact of their actions. By moving beyond performative gestures, people can contribute to meaningful change and support the communities they wish to uplift.
Okay, so that's performative allyship, and we've all experienced that as well. Okay, so I realized I was in a key position. So I became a speech mama. And I realized that, again, I was in a key position to help students of color. Okay. So I took back my power as a professional, as a professor, I'm sorry. My job was to be there for the students. Okay. They needed to see themselves reflected in every aspect of the culture to matriculate and to seek similar professions. Okay. And and my goal has been and has always been to expand the field. Actually, it wasn't always. I didn't realize I was into this, but my goal is to expand the field one Black speech pathology and audiologist at a time. So expanding the field through diversity, okay? And now we can't talk about that. But anyway, I tell my students, once you're my speech baby, you always my baby, which means I got your back. The mentoring never ends. Okay. It may change based on your status. It's going to change. Okay. What you needed as an undergrad, you don't need as a master's student. What you need as a master's student, you don't need as a doc student. And once you become a working professional, I'm still here for you. Okay. So I am the look of the mentoring may change, but it does not end. And it's important that we do that for our students. Okay. We have to do that. And I'm forever grateful to all of my speech mamas and aunties. And I even have a few speech uncles around too. So y'all know Dr. Tommy Robinson. That's everybody's speech uncle. So, that's the thing that's super important to me. Okay. To expand the field through diversity. Now, Ash's demographic history has pretty much looked the same since the whole thing started. So as a field, we have struggled to create diversity and to expand the field. There are organizations that are specifically for Black and BIPOC CSD professionals, like in Basla, this group, the Sisters group, there's the 8%ers, the Hispanic Caucus, all of that. So even though they provide a place of solace for the members, they've really done very little to expand the field or to increase the number of Black professionals in the field. Okay. And it's not their fault. Okay. But they're trying. You're a speech mama too. Yeah, I'm a speech mama. I definitely am a speech mama. And I have to have my students know I'm gonna be here, however you need me to show up. Okay. So, you see the numbers. We all know the numbers. So, field is dominated by 90%, and it's changed just a little bit because when I first started, it was 92% white women. Okay. So now it's 90%. So, but we still need to make more strides. But the Black speech pathologist, 3.8. Okay. It's kind of where it's been, you know. And I work hard to like I said, to drag my students, some of them across the finish line. I drag them across the stage because I got to get them babies out of there. I'm like, you got to get out of there because we got to expand the field. Okay. So what did I do? I created a group called the BIPOC check-in, right? Because I noticed that the Black students and the Hispanic students and the LGBTQIA plus students, they could come too. I'm like, come on, just come on. Even though it was the BIPOC check-in, they were still treated funny because they were different. So just come on with us. Black people like that. We just like, yeah, come on. So they were struggling, and not with the work, but with their experiences and their treatment in the field. So I developed this support group to prevent attrition and to expand the field, if we want to call it a safe space. But sometimes they don't trust you, right? But it was a place or an affinity group, as we call it, where students can voice their opinions, share their experiences, and meet other BIPOC students in the program on all levels. Because we had undergrad and graduate at this particular university. And I also introduced the students to Mbasla. And now I have the opportunity to introduce the students to the sisters group. There may be one in there, come to think of it. One of my babies is in there asking y'all to complete a survey. So y'all might see that. But I still keep in touch with my students, and I continue to support them in any way I can. Um, the affinity groups are important in that they foster a sense of belonging and they combat the feeling of social isolation. And sometimes that alone can help propel them through the program, help them matriculate through. So let's talk about the road to tenure. I worked at this university for about 5 years. Right before I was supposed to go up for tenure, I left. But they did not care about my research. They didn't encourage me to do research. They said, listen, this is a teaching university. I asked the president, when do we have time? Because I worked a 4-4 load, meaning that I taught 4 classes in the spring and 4 classes in the fall, or it was a combination of something like 3 classes and clinical supervision, that kind of thing, right? So the microaggressions where it played a tremendous role. And I used to say to myself, oh gosh, what are they going to do today? Okay. So I remember a time where I walked in because I typically come in a little later because I work late. I'm not coming in at 9 o'clock to look at them when I got to be there until 8 or 9. So, in classes or whatever. So I come into work and my clinic director saw me and she says, oh, hey, no, she didn't say, oh, hey, Andy. She goes, hey, I need to talk to you. I just walked past her. I didn't say nothing, right? Because I'm like, I don't know who the hell she thinks she's talking to. So, I address things when they occur. You know what I mean? But sometimes they'll challenge me. How so? How was that a microaggression? How, that kind of thing. But I said, sis, you almost got cussed out this morning. And so she was like, why? What did I do? And I said, you don't snap at somebody like that. I said, nobody's your pet. I do that to my daughter. I said, yes, your kid. And I said, and you really shouldn't do that to her because she's not a damn dog either. And I was like, she's not a pet. I'm not a pet. And she was like, oh, I didn't know that that was offensive. Yes, it is. Please don't do that. Okay. So it was things like that, that I experienced every day. Okay. And I was always assigned to the DEI committees, always, charged with attracting more BIPOC students to the program. And, I'm always front and center. And I don't mind. I really don't. But that can be heavy for somebody who didn't want to do that. Can you imagine I mean, my degree is CLD. Okay. Can you imagine for someone who has a specialty area of swallowing or something like that, dysphagia, and then they got to be front and center carrying that load? That's not right. Okay. It's not our job to educate people. But as a CLD person, it is my job and I don't mind doing it. But my research was often met with skepticism and resistance due to the nature of my topics, because it was cultural concerns. And I was often told to tone my language down in my writing. You need to tone your speech down or your language or whatever. Okay. So the year 2020 was pivotal for all of us. We had to go home and work online, but I had already decided to go home, I guess the semester before, because we were putting together an online program. And so it was a few months before COVID. And so I was already home. This resulted in a lot of micromanagement of me by white women with master's degrees. Okay. I don't know what it is about white women with master's degrees, but they have a tendency to micromanage you and do all these different things. And it was honestly unacceptable. Okay. So then further down in 2020, because we were all home because of the pandemic, and came the contemporary red summer, and we thought that we were going to advance, or something different was going to happen, because the contemporary red summer happened when the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor happened. It brought the disgusting treatment of Black people to the forefront again. It brought white supremacist terrorism, and the policing of Black and brown people, to people's attention everywhere, in the workplace and all other places, right? So we thought that we were going to advance, so we thought that things were going to change, right? They did not. Okay. So I don't know if you all remember Nicole Hannah Jones. Do y'all remember what happened with her?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. She was at the University of North Carolina. I forget which campus, but she was at one of those UNCCs or something like that. Okay. So we were all horrified. Now this woman just won the Pulitzer Prize, and she was supposed to, um, yeah, she got refused tenure. She was supposed to obtain tenure, and at the university where she was. And they didn't like her topic. She was the one that wrote the 1619 project. Okay. And she won, awards for this. And so she was supposed to be awarded tenure and all this kind of stuff, right? And they refused her. And the students protested, and the faculty protested, because this was horrifying to us. It's like, how dare you, right? So at the end, it was a big debate, and one of those people, embarrassingly, is from Arkansas, that was on their board. He was one of the ones that refused her tenure and all that. So of course, she fought it, and she won. Took a little while, but she won. And guess what she said when they offered it to her? She was like, "No, thank you. I'm going to Howard. HU, you know." So she was the tenure position came with the title of Knight Chair in Race, and they offered her a 5-year contract as opposed to awarding her tenure. So that let us know that none of us were safe, okay, in academia. She had to obtain legal counsel, okay, to receive her offer of tenure. And I was so happy when she rejected it. She was like, deuces, I'm out of here, okay? The one thing I got from that, and I got a lot of things from it, but the one thing I got from that is, she said this, I know she didn't, that's not her original quote, but she said to go where you are celebrated, not tolerated, okay? I was up for tenure soon, and I left the university uh, in St. Louis. Uh, I left because they summoned me back to St. Louis. So we want you to come back because it was a situation where I was supposed to log in 6 days a week. Okay. And I'm like, I'm not logging in on the weekends. I don't even teach 6 days. Oh, well, it's different, Andy, because, it's an online class and blah, 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 and woody woo. So my name showed up too much on the dean's list, on the dean's, desk. So they summoned me back to St. Louis. Plus, they needed somebody to teach that oral rehab class and audiology class, right? No, I quit. I left, okay? Because I was trying to go where I was celebrated, not tolerated. So I left for another PWI in the South, okay, where I had obtained my degree, my PhD. But guess what? The saga continued. More performative allyship. Okay. I was I found out that they had intended to hire a white woman with less experience than me at a higher salary than me. I'm grateful that my program director, my chair, or whoever it was, said no, it's not gonna happen. Okay. Um, Of course, I'm assigned to the multicultural course. Got complaints the very first day. Okay. So they call me into the office, right? And it's two white women and one black me. This was always the theme of those meetings. Two white women and one black me. Okay. So I don't have any support. I don't have, and my thing is, I'm a professional, right? I'm probably, I'm going to say probably, because I'm in my 50s by this time. So I'm probably not going to show my ass. I can't guarantee it, but I'm probably not, right? Because I'm a professional. So how come the one white woman can't come to talk to one me, right? It's got to be two. I guess they got to have a witness just in case I do become the angry black woman, right? But no one ever considers how adversarial these meetings are when you're called on the carpet to defend yourself. Okay. Um, Again, I was often encouraged to tone down my writing and my topics in my multicultural course. So they told me that I should present some things from the gender perspective. Oh, they know what it's like to be a woman and this and that, as opposed to the racial perspective. But I told them what I tell everybody. They were upset when I walked my black ass into that classroom. Now run tell that. So whatever I say that everybody looks crazy. There's nothing else left to say. It's over. It's always done, right? So I still continued, okay? I love my colleagues, don't get me wrong. And that's the one thing I figured out. Dr. Dawn, listen, I'm sorry you left academia, but you go back to another location because I realize it's not what you do, it's where you do it, okay? And so that's the thing. I love what I do, but I didn't love where I did it, okay? So in 2022, in May, my husband was diagnosed with renal cancer. Okay. I informed my work family, my dean, that I was going to work from home. I didn't have any classes to teach. I must have been doing like a independent study every other week, to do that. And they accused me of telling them and not asking them. Last I checked, I was a 52-year-old woman. Okay, grown ass woman. So yes, I'm telling you what I'm going to do for my husband, okay, who was diagnosed with renal cancer. Okay. So it's not like I was just shirking my duties or anything like that. I worked the entire time. Okay. Um, I had to tell them, I had to write down everything I was doing every day and submit that to my program director on a weekly basis. Okay. So here I was again being micromanaged and policed. Okay. They treated me poorly when I needed support the most. It was never, oh, Andy, take the time you need, this, and that, right? Never that. Okay. So even though I loved my colleagues, it was, administration, it was time for me to go yet again because I knew I could not be happy there, right? So this was a talk, and I can't remember where I was supposed to start the video, but I want you to watch it. And it's talking about how the academy won't save us. Okay. I think I'm supposed to start deep in here, like at 14, but I don't have the number where I'm supposed to start. So I'm gonna play some of this for you. I'm gonna put it where I think it's supposed to start. Okay. But I want you to hear this because this is talking about our health, Black women's health in higher education. And we are not okay. A whole lot of us are not okay in our situations in academia because of the stress. Honey, they took my edges, child. I was like, now look here. It was time for me to go. They done snatched my edges. So you know it was time to go. Okay. Put me on high blood pressure medication. I had never taken high blood pressure medication until my husband passed and I started being treated poorly, real bad. hmm I was I asked for a semester. I said, "Can I work from home?" And for a semester, they said, "No, you cannot." And so I was driving to Arkansas every other month to go to work. I work from home, and everything I could do at home. I mean, at the office, I could certainly do from home. But the funny part is they wanted to make sure that this is the micromanaging part to make sure my ass was in that office working. Honey, I have spent days in there looking at shoes and clothes and not doing any work, but I guess they were okay because I was there. Okay? Makes no sense to me. I'm more productive. Well, wherever I want to be, I'm productive. Be it at home, be it at work, doesn't matter. But I needed to work from home so I could handle my business here and settle my husband's estate and do all this kind of stuff. But yeah, no sympathy, no nothing. Okay. So like I said, got on blood pressure medication and got my edges snatched. But they coming back, okay? And I gotta get off this high blood pressure medication, y'all. Is you know what I'm saying? But it's okay. Oh, that's okay. Life happens, right? So let me play this talk just a second. But Dr. Don, it was time to go, right? It's time to go.
Yeah, I do agree with what my sister scholars are saying. The weathering piece of it that Lori began with is coming full circle with our conversations and yeah, I thank God that we're really melanated because boy, I tell you, if they if they really saw the stress on us, it would be there would be a lot of trauma physically that would be quite visible. I, I was listening also to what Paris just mentioned about just briefly you mentioned about the financial piece of it, and I agree that I wish that we had a way that we could be provided monies for all the work that we do in a way that is that we're in which we're compensated equitably. It's interesting that one of the things that has been really traumatizing for one of my young sister scholars, it has been trying to make ends meet in this profession that doesn't pay much, and then on top of that, you know, as Black women, we're at the very bottom of everything economically in terms of pay, negotiating, the attempt to get more money. And so very briefly, I just want to say that, I think that one of the pieces about the weathering and trauma for us is also the feminization of poverty is real, even for Black women who have PhDs, EDDs, whatever, who have terminal degrees and are trying to make it in this field. I'm just really concerned that one of the things that we've got to teach our young sister scholars is to understand our self-worth financially, to understand it and to really fight for it. And that will hopefully help a little bit with the weathering piece of it.
Well, one of the things that Paris said, and that you
Okay. So I encourage you all to watch this. I will send the this presentation if you want me to. I can send it to uh Terry. You know what I'm saying? Is that okay, Miss Terry?
Yes, it's okay. It's fine.
Okay, make sure give me your email address. But if you want this, I'm happy to send it to you all. And I think I may be able to put it in the chat in just a minute, okay? So again, even though
picked up
we experience all these crazy things, it's important to it's important to be present, okay? Um, as both a student and a professor, I've been a bystander. I've been a victim. I've been with racist activities around me. But as a faculty member, I have some power, right? And I have the some power to dismantle some forms of racism in the department and in the field in general. Okay. Because I had to stop and look at the role that I played in racism. Was I a bystander? Was I doing the stuff? What, was I okay with it? And there's been times where I just didn't say anything. Okay. But then there's also been times, a lot of times, but I get tired of calling people out. I get tired of sitting up in meetings and they're talking about this Black student and this and that. I'm like, have you all ever considered that? Maybe this is going on in her life. Have you all ever considered that? Those sorts of things, right? Because she had one little girl, she had to watch her brothers and sisters or whatever was going on, and she couldn't do certain things, right? So I'm just like, she can't do it. She it's her job to watch these babies. So, we need to figure out something for her. So I was always their advocate, even, they didn't realize it, but a lot of times behind the I was their advocate. So, and I really hoped that my students truly benefited from my efforts, and I hope that they felt safe and valued in all the spaces, even after I left, because I felt bad for leaving a lot of times. Um, like I said, we in academia, we watched in horror, and we're still watching in horror as our hard work to leveling the playing field for our students disappeared with the dismantling of our DEI work. And a lot of us do this kind of work. So, again, that you know, went into my decision to leave. And I know that my students at the PWIs, I know they need me, okay? But I had to do for me, and I know Dr. Dawn fell off, but I had to do this for me and my mental health, okay? And so my thing was, I had to go where my knowledge and skills were valued. And I literally and figuratively went home to an HBCU. Okay. Um, I, I know that the HBCUs have their own set of problems, but I take solace in the fact of knowing that if I'm ever mistreated or disliked, it ain't because I'm Black. Okay. It may be something else. I may have talked out of turn or said something crazy to somebody, which, is possible, but it won't be because I'm Black. Right. So at least I know that. Okay. So went back home literally and figuratively to Howard, which is an HBCU, and that's my home. Okay. So, but it's something that we have to do, and I really want Dr. Dawn to know this. even if you're in a situation at a PWI, you got to develop a sister circle. Okay. So it was important to develop and put other people around me, that I could go to, talk to, whatever. And I've met other sisters, and they supported me, I support them, that sort of thing. And oh, thank you. Oh, my colleague is here. Hey, Dr. Zapata is here from Howard. Oh, I'm happy to work with you too. Oh. And so we support each other. That's something that we have to do. And we have to stop this backbiting and all this stuff that sisters do sometimes. Stop. Look, I'm just gonna say, stop that shit. Okay? Stop being mean, doing mean girl behavior to each other. Stop it. Okay? Stop hazing our students and all this kind of stuff. Stop it. Okay? So in my sister circle, we have learned to celebrate our accomplishments without hate or jealousy. We are honestly proud of each other, and we have to nominate each other for different things. Okay. This sisters group and in Basel, it always feels like coming home. Okay, it's an absolute joy to come and be around women such as yourself. It is a joy to go to Basel and get rejuvenated. And after the conference, you feel like you just pick up the ammunition so you can go back out and fight again. Okay, so it's validating to look around and see yourself and your sisters and your brothers. Love them too. But this is something that's super, super important to do. So if you're going to survive in academia, and and especially if you're not at a HBCU, you better develop a sister circle. Okay. And that's what this group represented to me. Okay. When I joined the sisters, and when I joined Sisters New York, and I'm laughing because I'm not from New York, but Miss Terry was like, girl, you better come on. And I've always felt at home with everybody. She and I talked for hours. We had a good time, and we just really loved on each other. And that's something that's super important. That's something we have to do. And we got to stop being mean and nasty to each other and giving each other attitude and all this stuff. For what? I get so sick. I can't stand her ass, kind of stuff. I get so sick of that because, we all have different skills. We all have different talents. We all have different things to bring to the table, and we got to love on each other. And we got to stop gatekeeping these students and stop hazing these babies when they're trying to just get through. I think it's horrible for us to do. So that's something that really, really important to me. This book chapter, um, and I guess I'm not really, I guess it's a shameless plug, but it is, but it isn't. I got invited by Dr. Destiny Reddick to write this book chapter, but this book is filled with stories and personal accounts and research of other students. We just didn't make this stuff up, right? And the common theme of this book is misogynoir. Common theme all through the book, everybody's story, misogynoir, right? It's documented in this book. And again, it was suggested by another sister, Dr. Destiny Reddick, who I met in St. Louis. And I promise you, she was probably my only friend there, my only real friend. And this was therapeutic to write. Okay. I was happy to write it. I enjoyed to write it. It was just, liberating, to get this off my chest. So I'm very happy to tell my story in this book. And I'm grateful to her for pushing me to do it, because she pushed me to do it. Because I was like, girl, I'm not writing no, but I'm grateful that I did it. Um, this and I don't remember again where I'm supposed to start because I'm looking in my notes. And I don't know where I'm supposed to start it at, but look at this. This talks about community support. And so, like I said, having a sister circle for yourselves, um, it's good. It's a good thing, and that's going to help you get through. Okay. This is something that's very important. Keep your eye on your health. because these people are gonna stress you. It's a stressful job, and people think you got it good. Because I hear people telling me this all the time. You should hear the people telling me, "Oh, girl, you got it good. Oh, you just chilling. You up there at Howard. And they think I got money. You Dr. Toliver-Smith and this and that. You got this. You got it going. Man, go ahead. I'm struggling just like everybody else is. You want to pay some of these student loans for me? No, they don't. You want to do some of the things I'm having to do because out here. Oh, one of my girlfriends told me, "Oh, well, I know you don't go in until 12 anyway." That may be true, but I'm here to 9. You at home chilling, and I'm at the university working. So come on now. So we have those things going on, and I was telling somebody this has been my theme this year. I don't work in the summer, y'all. I've been working ever since school was out, but I know next month I'm not gonna work. But the reason why I'm working is because your fabulous president had dismantled DEI and those grants. We submitted a grant, okay, to help some of the master students with their tuition, and it was a DEI grant. So he canceled, they canceled all that. Then once they figured out it was illegal to do so, then they reintroduced it with a short period of time. So we've been working on that thing ever since school got out to resubmit it because the deadline's coming up soon. But we have to change all the language, all the DEI talk, all the cultural humility talk, all the culturally responsive practice, and we have to replace it with evidence-based practice. We've been doing that the whole time. So yeah, I've been working, but I do it. Why do I do it? For my students. So I want them to make it out because I want them to expand the field. I want them to go into the field. I want them to change that 3.8 number. And that's something I really and as far as going into academia, ladies, if you're going into academia, be prepared for the isolation, but develop a sister circle and keep your mentor. Whoever your PhD mentor was, go to them. Okay. Dr. Greta Robinson, she was on here. I think she fell off. I still write with her. Okay. So, if you have a good PhD mentor, you stick with them because they will help you through those times. And your sister circle is going to help you because, you can go to them and you say, "Hey girl, I almost cussed this man out today." And then you can talk about what happened because they're the only ones that's going to understand you, and support you. And we have to support each other, stop being hateful. We got to nominate each other for these awards at Asher so we can get them, okay? Because you have to be recognized, okay, for our efforts that we put in. We work hard in this field, okay? So our efforts need to be recognized, okay? So, and I'm not going to play any of this clip because I don't know where to start, but it was talking about what I just said, developing a community that you can go to, that you can be a part of, because that's super important to have that support. And thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm right here to answer them if I can. Yes, ma'am. Nicole.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are
Hi,
you?
Dr. Toliver-Smith. Thank you so much. I think this is
Uh-oh, where'd you go? Okay, there you are. I can't hear you. You muted now. I can't hear you, baby. You muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, this is my phone, so it's all over the place. But thank you so much, Dr. Toliver-Smith. This is such a great talk. Really needed. I defend my dissertation in a couple weeks, and then I got a postdoc lined up. Yeah, but it's it's so hard out here. Just thinking about how to navigate as a Black woman, and I went to Howard for my master's, so I have so much left. Right, right?
No.
But it's really hard because my everything I do is very research intensive. So